Hey guys, I got some really cool games to show here. 3 games for the price of one. For the most part, they're really pretty straightforward, so we're not going to go really deep into the analysis. 2 games played by friends of mine, and the last one played by me. So the first one played by Alvin, as he typically does. He opens with E4, or excuse me, D4. We have D5, E3, E5. All right, so notice right here, right away, going for a kind of calm opening. Nothing too exciting here. All right, so D takes E5, knight C6, knight F3, bishop G4, pinning the knight, bishop B5. So this is almost like a kind of modified Roy Lopez in a weird move order, a similar structure. Queen D7, bishop takes C6, queen takes C6, knight C3, bishop B4, bishop D2, B takes C3, or excuse me, bishop takes C3, bishop takes C3, and we have a queenside castle. So what's cool here with black, Alvin's opponent here was going for an attack on the queen, maybe hoping to advance this pawn at some point, and take advantage of this line going on here, and hoping to maybe win this knight at some point. All right, so we have short castles, and black just takes the knight. Bishop takes F3, queen takes F3, and notice right away by black capturing right here, it doesn't. You're just helping white. You're connecting, as the Pog champs called it, or even Agab mattered now, the bros for life. We got the rooks connected. All right, and notice we've got some pressure here. All right, either rook could come in here. I'm guessing more than likely it would be the D rook. So the F rook could come to the E file, support this pawn. Here's how it goes. Black decides to get developed, or excuse me, here. So we have knight E7, queen takes F7. All right, so we're still keeping the attack here, and notice all these pawns here are getting quite weak. All right, so the queen drops back to D7, and the evaluation goes crazy here, saying that white is like a full rook up. One of the lines it sees here, the engine found, I didn't find it, this move right here, what is it, E6. So E6 trying to kick the queen. All right, and the idea from there is you're opening up an attack with the bishop. After you kick the queen retreats to D6, and you just start taking stuff out. I mean, the whole king side drops here. So Alvin played queen takes G7, just capitalize on all these free pawns going on here. F, G, H is soon to fall. He goes for the attack, giving up the H pawn. All right, so queen takes H7, knight F5, and Alvin decides to do the right thing. All right, I'm up many pawns. Actually, he hasn't lost a single pawn yet. Pawn count is 8-4. So he says we'll trade down queens, and we got a bishop versus a knight, 8 versus 4. I mean, it's crazy. Rook takes D7, A4, and Alvin strikes on the queen side, looking to get in A5 and A6. So we have knight H4, looking for this double attack on the G2 pawn, trying to pressure the king, and just G3, kicking the knight, and also giving the king some breathing room. We have knight F3 check, king G2, just staying calm. Rook F7. I don't really know what the idea was here with Rook F7. Here maybe you could play knight H4, get this check in, because we have this pin going on. All right, so we just have A5. Alvin calmly continues with his plan as he normally plays, very calm. You know, he's one of those annoying players that doesn't get pressured. He sees stuff and he keeps moving if he doesn't fall for the ghosts very much. So we have knight H4 check, king H1 getting out of there, and then knight back to F3. A6, just continuing up, putting some pressure here. Best for black is probably just advancing the pawn to B6 or even B5, looking for some expansion. All right, don't let this happen, because white does not have a light square bishop to even take advantage of these lines. So, but black actually captures, and this is just even better for white, because now we get rooks into the game. You can have trades going on. So he captures the pawn. Rook takes A6, king B7 with an attack on the knight. All right. I don't know if this was the most accurate move going for. I mean, maybe to capture that pawn and protect this one here, but then you could just advance right here, I believe. So I don't know. Rook h7, king g2, knight takes h2. All right. Now that it's supported, but Alvin just calmly plays rook h1. All right. So now that knight is pinned to the rook. All right, so the knight can't move, and we have rook g to h8. All right, so this is black's first, major downfall, because we have e6. This pawn is rolling, and it comes with an attack on the rook. So we have knight g4 getting out of the way, looking for this discovered attack, but just grabs the rook. And then I don't know what the idea was here, thinking maybe you could, grab this rook here after this check, but after knight takes e3 check, f takes e3, and black resigns. So it just shows how Alvin could calmly knock off all the pawns on the fg and h7. Oh, we got lights flickering going on. I don't know if there's a storm or something. Anyway, yeah, takes out those pawns and absolutely capitalizes, wins the game. Beautiful, really cool game. All right, moving on to the second game real quick. Just give me 1 second. Switched over to the next analysis. All right. Analysis, self-analysis. Here we go. Okay. Here's a pretty cool game where Lily ends up really capitalizing on someone making just inferior moves. I didn't even know what this opening was called. I mean, usually white will play this kind of, I don't want to say arrogantly, but I would think if I were playing someone and then they started with h4, either they just don't know how to open a chess game really, or they're trying to give away the move, saying, hey, you can take control of the center. So either way, she capitalizes, say, hey, if you're going to play h4, I will play e5 and take the center, open up my queen and bishop. All right, he plays e3, another really slow move, not taking control of the center at all, really. So she capitalizes d5. As black, this is really nice to get a good control of the center. Bishop e2, starting to develop. Knight c6, c3, knight f6, f3, bishop d6, g4, just expanding with the pawns even more. I'm not really understanding. I think this guy was just, he must have been experimenting. Like, hey, let me try out something funky. So Lily castles, all normal stuff here. h5, and he shuts down his kingside attack, his pawn storm with h6, so a perfect move there. Queen a4, kind of, once again, jumping the gun. I don't know what this guy was thinking this game, but the point isn't to poke at this guy's mistakes or inaccuracies. It's just to see how much Lily was able to capitalize on it. So if we have queen e8, a little more accurate, might have been bringing that's not a knight. Okay, bringing the bishop to d7. All right, getting this here. All right, so he retreats queen c2. We have a5, looking to control some space on the queen side. a3, looking to shut things down. b5, further expanding. b4, and she right away opens things up, saying, hey, if you recapture with the a pawn, I'm getting your rook. So a takes b4, c takes b4, knight takes b4, saying, hey, guess what? I'm attacking your queen. You can't take my knight because I'm going to get your rook. So really cool attack here. And that's what I mean by her capitalizing on, complete development. The only piece not yet developed is a light square bishop. With the light square bishop would have a really good future right here. Advance the d pawn to d4. So next is queen b3, coming in with an attack on the knight and getting out of harm's way. All right, we have bishop e6. I'm getting ready to open up this discovery. Like I said, it might have been a little more accurate to play this way, but maybe hoping for an advance, take out this pawn, come with attack on the queen. So let's see what happens. All right, bishop b2. All right, ignoring that threat. And here it comes, d4 with an attack on the queen. Queen d1. And man, how many times has this queen moved this game? Look, what do we have? 1, 2, 3. I mean, at least four times I think this queen has been bounced around, going for attacks and retreating, and that's why you definitely want to develop as soon as you can pieces before your queen, unless you know the line that you're playing. All right, so queen c6. I wasn't 100% sure what this move was about. Maybe thinking bringing the bishop here, coming with a double attack here if this knight ever develops. Maybe you'd be able to win that square, this f3 square. All right, a takes b4. Just looking to open up this exchange here. All right, rook takes a1, bishop takes a1, and queen a6 with an attack on the bishop. A little premature, but still just going for the attack. Bishop b2, bishop takes b4, getting that free pawn. And notice this attack here. This king doesn't have a whole lot of places to go. So king f1, just getting out of harm's way. c5. We have e4, bishop a2, going for an attack on the knight. This move I wasn't a super big fan of, just because this knight has no future to begin with. So, I mean, I wouldn't want to give away a good bishop for a bad knight. But we have bishop d3, bishop takes b1, queen takes b1, bishop takes d2, and here's where things start to get fun. All right, we have knight e2, trying to get the rook into the game, get the king to safety, and c4. These pawns just come storming in. All right, the bishop gets out of the way. Feel free to pause the video, see if you can find a tactic here. It's a pretty simple one. All right, if you found it, awesome. If not, here's where you always want to look for pieces being separated by one square. All right, so if we advance the pawn right here, it comes with a double attack, and then you end up winning a piece. For the most part, it usually works unless they have some kind of attack where they can win a piece and get the other out of the way, or come with an attack on the queen. So anyway, we have c3, all right, with an attack on the bishop. Queen a1, rook a8, saying, hey, we can exchange queens, but if we're going to do it, we're going to do it on my terms. So good move on Lily there, just getting the rook into the game the right way. And then also after the exchange, I mean, maybe if this bishop gets out of the way somewhere, actually, which it has to because you have this attack going on here, then you end up getting the check here and winning the rook. I mean, king can escape there, but we're just consolidating. And look at this, we got 3 passed pawns. I mean, this is going to roll here. So anyway, we have king f2, getting the rook into the game. C takes b2. All right, that's a free bishop. Queen takes b2, winning the pawn. Bishop e3 check. Great move here, supported by the pawn. All right, and then king g2. This is where the mating net starts to happen. All right, b4, advancing the pawn. You might think like, all right, well, you could just capture it, but keep in mind this bishop is in the way of the protection of the knight. So here we go, takes the bait, takes the free pawn, and we have queen takes e2 check. All right, and the king is running out of squares. And the king runs away, king h3, and the queen follows. Queen takes f3 check, king h2, and knight takes g4 mate. Notice the king has no squares. The queen cuts off the third rank, also cuts off g2. The bishop takes care of this diagonal here, and the knight delivers the mate. So awesome game there, totally capitalizing on someone making funky moves. So make sure in your own games, if you see some inaccuracies, look at how you can capitalize on it. All right, so let's move on to the very last game. All right, it's myself with the black pieces against a random chess.com user. All right, so let's just close that and pull up the last analysis. All right, so this game is one I should have lost horribly, but we shall see what happened. All right, so it's a relatively normal game. Let me just flip the board here. All right, so d4, knight f6, c4. We move into a Queen's Gambit decline, Marshall defense. Knight c3, c5. I mean, this is all normal stuff. e3, knight c6, knight f3, bishop g4, pinning the knight, bishop e2, supporting the knight, and bishop takes e3. I just decided to trade here, thinking I'm going to win some territory on the d file. Bishop takes e3, or excuse me, f3, and then I just play e6, opening up the bishop to help support here and hopefully get castled soon. So we have c takes d5, knight takes d5, castles, bishop e7, and very soon you're going to see where the blunder comes in. Notice we've got a double attack going on here, but we're also supported twice at the moment. So we have knight takes c3, getting rid of that knight, and then b takes c3, b6, and what did I do? I removed the last support of this knight, all right, because I have no d pawn and my b pawn advanced, and it's about to get ugly. And guess what? Guess what's behind that? Check. Grab the rook. So I'm about to lose a knight and a rook. I mean, almost the equivalent of losing a queen. I mean, this is absolutely horrible. I'm like, all right, this is resignable, but you know what? Let's play it out, see what I can do. All right, king f8, just walking away. I've got nothing to interpose with unless I want to lose my queen. So bishop takes a8, queen takes a8, saying, hey, you know what? I got some good diagonals here. I still have a bishop here that can get on this diagonal. And hey, guess what? If he's got a dark square bishop, maybe he'll try some type of attack where I can interpose, drop a pawn, open the G file, and come in. So that's my absolute last hope. So he plays bishop d2. We have bishop d6. I just want to hit those diagonals. e4, king e7, just getting out of the way, getting more active, helping with the defense if possible. e5. Effectively taking my bishop out of the game. Bishop c7, bishop g5 check, and here's where I'm like so happy because I can kind of see what might happen. I'm thinking, all right, I can advance that pawn captures, maybe bishop gets out of the way, and then I can bring the rook over and I can hit the G file here and maybe luck out. Maybe the guy's not paying attention, whatever. I mean, I'm already playing a horrible game here. So f6, e takes f6 with check, g takes f6, and bishop e3. He drops out of the way, and then rook g8, getting that open file, or semi-open file. g3, and queen b8. So I already have my idea here. Feel free to pause the video and see how I can not necessarily force something here. I won't tell you whether it's, you know, a mate or a draw or perpetual or whatever it might be. See if you can find it. All right, if you found it, awesome. The only thing here is it isn't necessarily a forced line, but it's something easy to fall for. You know, maybe the guy thinks I'm just trying to, hey, let me just throw away my pieces and maybe, you know, I'll hope for a stalemate. But let's see what happens. So we have d takes c5, bishop takes g3. I throw away a bishop. H takes g3, rook takes g3 check. I throw away rook. F takes g3, and here's where the magic happens. Queen takes g3 check, king h1, queen h3 check, king g1, queen g3 check, king h1, queen h3 check, king g1, queen g3 check, and that is a perpetual check. And I was just ecstatic that I was able to find that and say, hey, if I throw these pieces at here, and he wants to drop his f and his h pawn, his king's going to have nowhere to go. If queen or rooks were on the second rank, it would have been game over because they get to interpose and stop the checks, or if he had a light square bishop, but he didn't. So it worked out beautifully. So happy, very happy to be able to pull that off out of an absolutely horrible game. But that is your 3-for-1. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you next time.